Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
Woo-woo! All right. We just took some caffeine here at headquarters. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. It is February 5th, and we have some amazing headlines for you. Welcome, Trisha. Welcome, Morgan, co-anchors.
What's up, guys?
We are ready to rock and roll. I hope that you're having an amazing day. Thank you for spending time with us. Some really interesting lists. I know you guys like our lists when we cover stories, and we have some interesting lists today. Also some questions from Burn Nation, and we're excited to dive into it. There's 4 stories, okay? And these 4 stories come from various outlets, but I really like these today. They're list-based. So number 1 is a dietitian gives 7 must-eat foods to build muscle. That's what we're all about around here. Now, I agree and disagree with some of the things this gentleman says, and we'll talk through that. But nonetheless, a good article for us to, as a centerpiece for us to have a conversation around. Number 2 is kill these 6 habits to achieve your weight loss goals. So 6 habits getting in the way of your weight loss goals. And that comes from Inc. magazine. Number 3 is a neurologist, is an 83-year-old neurologist, by the way, reveals 3 tricks he uses to keep his brain sharp. Mostly talking about memory. I've got some other thoughts that I think trump some of the things that he's saying. But in the context of this article and his work that he's doing, this 83-year-old neurologist wrote a book on how to keep your brain sharp. We'll dive into that because that's so important to stay. I mean, this is about longevity, right? Being sharp cognitively into your 80s, into your 90s. That's really what fitness is for. It's not to build a six-pack or to have, like strong muscles necessarily. All those things are byproducts of longevity. And number 4, dietitian and microbiome researcher reveals what she eats to keep her gut healthy. So we're going to dive into these 4 articles, everybody. But first, before we do that, we are going to hear from one of our Burn Bootcamp On Demand members, Jillian Parten. Okay, Jillian, thanks for sharing your video. Roll video.
Hi, my name is Jillian Parten, and my Burn Bootcamp journey started about 4.5 years ago. My older 2 daughters are 13 months apart, and I gained a lot of weight during those back-to-back pregnancies. And when my youngest, at the time, was almost 1, I realized I needed to do something for my own health. So I heard about Burn Bootcamp because of their Child Watch. So I went, and I thought I was going to throw up during the warm-up. I was terribly out of shape, but I kept going. And it was the first time I felt like the community there just really was encouraging you instead of like looking down on you. So that's what kept me coming back. And I just loved it. We ended up moving, and I became a member of Burn Bootcamp in Edmond, Oklahoma. I had my 3rd baby there, 3rd daughter, but I'd worked out that entire pregnancy, and it made a huge difference in delivery and recovery. I also ended up having shoulder surgery about 9 months postpartum. So then I was in recovery for about 6 months after that. But this entire time through that 3rd pregnancy and shoulder recovery, I was still working out at Burn, and they still found workouts that I could do with the modifications. And I really started to learn what it looked like to fuel your body with nutrition and how to lift weights properly. We moved again to Maryland, and there was not a Burn location close to us. So this was when Burn On Demand rolled out. So we built up our home gym and our outdoor shed, and we started jumping in on the live. And it has really made a huge difference. I remember the first time thinking, these girls are lifting such heavy weights. I cannot keep up with them. And I have seen so much progress, though, in the last year of just continually working out with these people on Burn On Demand, on the live crew, challenging. Now I see what weights they're lifting. I'm like, okay, Jillian, you can do it. And I try to lift those same weights and try to push myself and challenging myself. And it has made a big difference, tremendous difference in my own life. My husband and I are doing it together. We're trying to eat and fuel our bodies the correct way. And I cannot thank Burn Boot Camp enough for the impact that it's made in me and my family, my kids. My kids do kids camp. They see us, and it is a part of who we are now. And we are absolutely Burn Boot Camp people, and we are so, so thankful.
Well, yes, you are, Jillian. You and Micah and family have not only been streaming on demand live, but also in the studio right here, competing with Matt Morris himself, our VP of Fitness in the Versus series, but then also in our building, right? And so Burn on Demand, yes, we're training each other, we're working out together, digitally, in this community digitally, but also that's just a feeder into the greater community. Whether you join the gym or visit us at HQ or stop into a gym when you're on a vacation, you are part of the greater community when you're a Burn on Demand member. And for all of you who are not near a gym, or you just want a little bit of warm up before you get to the gym, that's okay too. I hear that sometimes. I don't want you to be nervous to go into the gym. I want you to be vulnerable and walk in and ask for help. But at the end of the day, you can get started online from the comfort of your own home. It's a 7-day trial on Burn on Demand. It fits your schedule. And what we're going to do is we're going to convince you that you need a community in person. All right. And we're either going to bring one to you. So we're going to bring one near Jillian and Micah there in their home outside of DC, or maybe they'll open one day. Who knows? Maybe they'll open one.
The opportunities are endless.
Yeah. So get that BOD 7-day trial, everybody. And speaking of, I wanted to just touch on, and I want to hear your opinions, thoughts, personal experiences with what I'm about to explain. But everybody, it is a new year in Burn Boot Camp, okay? We are taking our fitness product to the next level. What does that mean? Well, that means we just evolve. How do we evolve? In a few different ways, but most importantly, what I wanted to explain to you is just a set of kind of top-down principles that you as a member need to know to be educated on what you're showing up and doing every day. When you hear your crazy trainers and I talk about personal records, PRs, periodization, we talk about progressive overload, mesocycles. You're going to hear a lot of this information. Let me just take a moment to unpack that, okay? So at the highest level, you're going to look at an entire year of Burn Boot Camp as that big macro cycle, okay? You're going to have from January to January, Matt and I, we put together the protocol. That protocol is then broken down into individual training cycles or mesocycles, which there's 9 of them in 2025. Each one of those mesocycles have human movement patterns in them, okay? I'm going to show you a video in a moment that's going to actually display those human movement patterns on the screen for you, so I won't go through all of them, but each one of those human movement patterns, and by the way, there's 12, 7 primary, 5 secondary. Those 12 patterns all have 2 trackable exercises in each one. And within those 9 phases that I mentioned are broken out over the year, training phases or mesophases, mesocycles, we have those human movement patterns. Those are what we're tracking, and those are what we're associating to a PR. So as a member, you need to understand that it's kind of the 30,000-foot view, and then we're zooming all the way down into what we're doing today, and then all of it works together to build not only your musculature. We call it hypertrophy. That's the scientific discipline for our strength days. So hypertrophy. And then for our conditioning days, what we're really focused on is VO2 max, really is increasing the amount of lactic acid or lactic acid threshold that our body is able to produce. And when we do that, we can work harder for longer. When we do that, there's brain effects, cognitive effects, heart effects, longevity effects. So you have the body, the muscular effects combined with the brain and longevity effects together. That is our protocol. That is our programming. So I want to roll a video. It's going to kind of explain this in chronological order. And then I want to get your opinions, your thoughts, your experiences, Morgan and Trisha, on what your thoughts are around this. So roll video.
Burn Nation, 2025 is here, and it's bringing the next evolution in your fitness journey. After collaborating with your trainers, we've redesigned our programming to deliver a more personal, powerful, and transformative experience. So here's the big picture. 2025 is built around 9 training phases, or mesocycles, each lasting 4 to 6 weeks. Every week, you'll get 3 strength days, 3 conditioning days, and workouts designed to push your limits. We've created our 9 cutting-edge protocols driven by the 12 human movement patterns. Master the 2 trackable exercises within these patterns, and you'll build unbreakable strength, seeing and feeling your progress in real time. And when it's time to level up, welcome to PR Week, a celebration of your growth, grit, and new personal records. At Burn, you train with those who set the standard, push the limits, and lead the way in redefining what's possible. You have experts here to map out your unstoppable strength, and all you have to do is show up and give it everything you've got.
Let's go. All right. Well, the primary movement patterns, secondary movement patterns, they're programmed throughout. I'm going to just go over them real quick. I'm going to kick it to the ladies here. So push has 3 focuses throughout the year. Out of the 9 training phases, push will be in 3 of those. Pull will be in 4. Squat will be in 3. Hinge will be in 2. Lunge will be in 2. Gait 1. Agility 1. Those are the primary movement patterns. The secondary movement patterns are brace, rotate, jump, carry, and balance. Each of the first 4, brace, rotate, jump, and carry, will have 1 apiece, and balance will be weaved throughout the entire protocol for the year. Make sense? Say yes?
Yes.
All right, Morgan, I'll kick it to you first. What is your experience so far? We're almost, we're through and starting phase 2 now.
Yeah.
We're through phase 1. How'd it go? We had double unders. We also had, let's see, front squats, and we had pull-ups. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
no, the Commit to Fit challenge was awesome. I didn't make the progress that I quite wanted in my pull-up progression, but I think what's great about our challenges and just our protocol in general is this is over a year, right? This is 12 months. So a lot of us have such a short-term mindset, myself included, hey, I wanted to increase my pull-ups by 1 or 2. Doing that in 30 days might not be realistic for everybody. It wasn't for me, for someone that's been working out my whole life. However, it's motivated me, right? It's given me a baseline in the beginning of the year, and I'm excited to say, where can I go by the end of the year, even the 12 months after all 9 of these mesocycles. So it's cool to see the evolution of our protocol, of our programming. I've been here since the beginning. Trish has been here since the beginning. She remembers the early days when, protocols weren't designed this way, and as we've scaled, as we've grown, and we've brought on more trainers that have given us great feedback. It's great to see where we've ended for this new evolution of programming. And what I love most about it, and what I'm most excited about too, is it's natural human movement patterns, right? So when we think about what we're doing in the gym and how that translates outside of the gym, picking up your kids or carrying your groceries in, or, just human patterns that we need to stay sharp and mobile at, we're going to be able to do that in the gym very much more intentionally, I would say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%, Morgan. And I've been a member for over 8 years. And I think it's really great that we are leaning into education. Knowledge is power, and knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it, and actually being able to put your mind in that muscle and see growth, see improvement, is just going to help build that confidence, not in the gym, but like we say, once you get that confidence in the gym, it's going to help you outside of our 4 walls. So I'm really excited to hear the stories of people after they've learned, why we do the things we do in the gym. Because, and I'm so excited that strength training is becoming more and more talked about, and especially for females, it's no longer, it's going to make you bulky. Like these are important movements that we need to be able to do, to Morgan's point, outside of the gym, but then just to build that strength for longevity, and to have that lifelong balance, and not a quick fix, and all these things that I know we're going to get into later in this episode. But this is going to set all of us, even if you've been working out at Burn Bootcamp forever, it's going to set all of us up for success. So I'm stoked.
Well, the most important thing to me is most members, like if I'm honest, right, I've worked with thousands of members. Morgan has as well. Trish, you've worked with thousands. All of us have been on the mic up here. And I believe that most people want to know the information, but at the end of the day, like they don't really care. They just want to show up and have somebody, here's what they tell me. I just want to show up and have somebody tell me what to do. And I take that very seriously. I know we all take that very seriously. When you just show up and you're putting that kind of blind, vulnerable trust into us, we're going to make sure that this thing keeps evolving so that, you're going to keep evolving. So it's just an ongoing commitment and evolution. And I'm glad that, I'm glad you guys laugh. I'm glad you're motivated by it.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I always like a good little refresh into something, it motivates us that have been here for 10 plus years. And I still walk in every day with the trust that, hey, my trainers and Matt and Devin, like they have my back. They know what they're doing. And so whether this kind of is clicking with you right now or not, like just know we put a lot of work into this and you can trust that this is going to help you get the results that you're looking for.
And if you are somebody who wants to really make this stick, we understand how hard it is to go from a sedentary lifestyle into the burn lifestyle. It's a long journey, right? And it's not just going to happen overnight. And part of that journey is education. Part of that journey is knowledge and self-education, right? So, as you hear me talk about the primary movement patterns, the secondary movement patterns, push, pull, squat, hinge, lunge, gait, agility, etc., it's very important that, if you are somebody who wants to make this stick and you are sick and tired of being sick and tired or sick of starting over again and kind of having these periods of demotivation, motivation, and, we call that maybe yo-yoing, or if you feel that way, you're stuck in that cycle, education a lot of times is the potential power that you need. Tony Robbins taught Morgan and I when we were first coming up in business and learning that knowledge isn't power, it's just potential power. So when you have knowledge, now you have the information to go be powerful with. Knowledge in itself is nothing without an element of execution. So, but it's that 1-2 punch, right? Understand, educate yourself, know, and now there's a higher likelihood that I'm actually going to execute on that because I understand the why behind it. And as human beings, none of us like to really do things blindly without really understanding the why. So let me see. Cycle 2, we are in that right now, okay? February 3rd, March 15th, push and hinge. Push and hinge, okay? What's a push? Chest press. What's a hinge? Deadlifts. 12 reps, that's what we're focused on. How much weight can you lift for 12 reps on a push and on a hinge? So from now until the middle of March, that's what you're going to see inside of the gym. So text a friend, tell a friend, PRs, push, hinge, chest press, deadlift. Anytime you encounter those exercises, be ready to show up and put that personal record PR effort into your workouts. All right, everybody, if you have any questions about meso cycles, if you have any questions about our training phases, you have questions about human movement patterns, Devin at Burn Bootcamp is my email. Email me, Devin Klein on Instagram, Morgan Klein on Instagram, Burn Bootcamp on Instagram. Guys, we will answer your questions about anything. Podcast at burnbootcamp.com. Wherever you want, we're going to find you. Okay, we're going to find you. We're going to help educate you. We really believe in that. That's our vow to you. Okay, we're going to move on to our first story of the day. And I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on Mr. Chris Moore's list. Pull up this article if you don't mind, Chelsea. Oh, by the way, welcome Chelsea to the podcast, everybody. Hey, Chelsea, producer Chelsea's behind the scenes. Are you live, Chelsea?
I think so.
Woo!
Oh, hey, Chelsea.
We got you. You're loud and clear. Chelsea's going to help communicate, navigate the internet for us so that we can bring you visuals that are representing our conversation. So this dietitian gives 7 must-eat foods to build muscle. This guy's name is Chris Moore. He was a nutritional consultant for the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as partnered with LL Cool J, who is big into fitness. LL Cool J's always been a big lifter. On a book. I forget what the book was called. Maybe you guys can find that book at some point. I forget what the book's called, but LL Cool J worked with Chris Moore on a book. And so this guy's got some street cred. He's got a PhD. He's a registered dietitian. And he's got a list here. All right. And his list is, it's basically, there's two foundational principles in which I agree with. Number one is that his list is varied. It's varied proteins that all have a high EAA profile, which is an essential amino acid profile or a complete amino acid profile. Let me read this third paragraph here. It says, you can think of amino acids as the building block of muscle. Jordan, can you scroll up, Chelsea, on that? Can you scroll up on that? I can't see it.
The camera's in the way,
scroll
guys.
Up. I can't see it on the camera. There you go. Right there. It's right there. Okay. So you can think of amino acids as the building blocks of muscle. Among the available amino acids, there's 9 of them known as the essential amino acids. These cannot be produced by the human body, so we need to obtain them from protein in our diet. So from food, you have to consume these amino acids. All 9 of these are complete, and these EAAs are the most, when they're complete, is the most efficient way to produce the building blocks of protein and start protein synthesis. Okay, so amino acids, essential amino acids, you can only get them from food. They have to be complete. There is a ranking, and I'm not sure if this article is considering the ranking. I'll talk about the ranking in a minute. But the ranking is called Protein Digestibility Corrected Amino Acid Score, or PDCAA score. Okay, I know that's a lot. And then there's another one called IAA, Indispensable Amino Acid Score. This article doesn't discuss those. I don't know if Chris is using these behind the scenes to bring forward his opinions. But he has what I would call a decent list. And now I'm not a PhD. I am not an registered dietitian. But I am self-educated on all things that I do. And don't listen to me or listen to me. It's just one man's opinion. I want to go ahead and go through his list. Number 1 is cottage cheese. Number 2 is salmon. Number 3 is whole eggs. Number 4 is tofu. Number 5 is beef. Number 6 is mussels. And then what's the last one? I remembered those ones. I didn't remember the last one. There's tofu, go faster, beef. There's beef, mussels, and oh, there it is. And then this was like Icelandic or yogurt. So what's
How
that?
do you say that? Scar? I don't think I've ever seen that in the grocery store.
Let me hear your Icelandic accent.
No, I don't know what the accent is. I'm just trying to
Siggies. You heard of Siggies?
I've heard of Siggies. Yeah, I actually purchased Siggies, but when I was looking at this, I was like, I need to look closer at the labels and see if that's sold at the stores I go to. I felt pretty good about this list because I am eating most of the foods on it, with the exception of mussels and tofu.
Okay. All right.
And I guess this yogurt. But I do Greek yogurt.
With the exceptions of 50% of the list, it's okay.
3 out of 7. I think that's 40%. 60%.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It's good to go. Okay. So do you agree with Chris? Do you disagree with Chris? Is there anything that you wanted to call out in terms of directing based on because you've got the practical experience, right? Your training days are far behind you. We were both never nutritionists. I kind of kept on to my training and nutrition and keeping up with it and trying to stay educated, and you've gone in a different direction with running the business and occupying your ability to learn with all of the business side of things. And so now you're more of a practical, a consumer, I would say. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. I'm not trying to offend. I'm just trying to say that you're now more of a consumer and less of a trainer. And now it's practicality, I guess is what I'm saying, is the most important thing to you.
Yeah.
Now, not all the science behind it all and, what's incrementally maybe a little bit more important.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, everything has to be simple and realistic for the average busy human, which is all of us here and most of the people that are listening. We don't have time to make these extravagant meals to make sure that we're getting enough protein in a day. So looking at this list, I do think all of it is, fairly doable as far as meal prepping it, and, it's affordable. And so I like the list. I think cottage cheese is something I've reintroduced into my diet. For a while, I removed a lot of dairy, but cottage cheese does not bother me. And it is kind of that hack. I know some people, you love to hate it, but you can put it in your scrambled eggs. You can kind of add it to chicken. You can add it to things that add more protein, which is what I love about cottage cheese. So yeah, I think, I guess to answer your question from a practical standpoint, I agree with all of it.
Okay. Trisha?
Yeah, no, same. I think I always look at it through the lens of, if I didn't know anything about, how much protein I needed to get, just making sure that it was, to Morgan's point, practical, not things that are going to be overcomplicated, because I think just aiming to get the low 100 grams of protein per day is hard for some people. And so putting it in foods that are easily readily available for you to eat, like cottage cheese is a good snack, or to add it to your other foods. And I also like that because I still have dairy sensitivity. So it's nice that this list is also, it kind of picks from different sensitivities. So yeah, you might not be able to eat some of these things based off of whatever your dietary restrictions are, but there's other options for you too that are going to get you to your protein goals.
Yeah. I think too, it's important that none of this stuff is like processed products, even, protein powder. Yeah, it's important.
I'm gonna disagree with you heavily on this, so go into it. I want to hear it.
Well, it's important they have a balance of both. I don't think that it's realistic to try to get all of your protein by a processed supplement. I think it's truly that. It's a supplement. So if you can have your core protein sources to be through whole foods, that is my position, and I believe that's all of our positions here, even at Burn Boot Camp, is whole foods first, and then you're supplementing with your afterburn or your protein shake and whatever the case may be.
Yes,
so.
I would agree with you that it's whole foods first, and that holistic nutrition is the most important, that we should eat foods that come from the earth. Yes, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the best protein sources. We're isolating one macronutrient out to say what, based on the available evidence, right, that we have scientifically, like these scores, like these scores, there's no bias in these scores. Like, it's just measuring the absorption rate basically, and then saying, okay, in a human being in these trials, what is the highest quality of protein source based on the protein digestibility corrected amino acid score, and based on the indispensable amino acid profile. So these two metrics equal the essential amino acid score, right? So that's too scientific for even me, but I'm gonna lean on that. Otherwise, it's just an opinion, which are valid, but protein synthesis needs complete amino acids in order to be most efficient. So if we want to be efficient at building muscle, then we need complete protein. And the most important protein to protein synthesis, or the most important amino acid to protein synthesis, is called leucine, L-leucine. Morgan, I know you know L-leucine well. And we preach that in all of our afterburn products, etc. So when I go out and I do their actual research, and I say, okay, Chris, I like your list, right? You're a PhD. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right, but here's the advice that I would give, and I'm just explaining some of my logic. So I would use the digestibility scores that we have, right, on human randomized control trials, and then I would say, okay, what's the list based on these scores? And when the scores come in, here's what the scores say. This is not what Devin says. Here's what the scores say. Number one is whey protein isolate. Number one, right? And so, yes, processed foods, but also, like, at what point is like ground turmeric powder non-processed? Because it's processed, it's not natural in its form. You have to actually put it through a grinder. That's processing, right? There's elements of heat to that, I'm assuming. And so there's levels to processed, is my point. There's many, many levels to processed, and that's where the term minimally processed comes from. And so just to add some color there, but the scores say number one, whey protein. Number two, whole eggs. Number three, beef or bison. Number four, venison. Number five, chicken breast. Number six, salmon. Number seven, cottage cheese. And then number eight, on my list, I would put the plant protein, or the tofu, because it is, although the score is a little bit lower, I'm going to add it in there because I know we have our plant eaters, and it's the most complete essential amino acid profile outside of methionine, which is one amino acid that it's not very strong in. And animal protein is always going to be more complete. But I like Chris's list because he mixes it up. And I also threw mussels off of his list because of Morgan's reason, practicality. Like, no one's going home in the evening and just eating mussels. Like, I mean, maybe there's a few people out there that look forward to grilling, or boiling, and you make them boiling mussels
I don't know.
When you get home
I've
at 5:30
truly
p.m.
not ever tried to cook with that, so
But
I don't plan on it.
I highly doubt that mussels has out of all the lists of protein, has a practicality score that's very high. So I took that one out as well. But I think it's very important to not forget that we are what we eat. And not only that, but we also, more importantly, we are what we eat has already eaten or digest. So bison, elk, venison, these types of meat that have laws against the mass production is I think it's a very important part of this conversation. And like the elk, I was listening to a podcast once with Huberman, which I think we have a clip from him coming up here shortly. We have a clip, Chelsea, from Huberman on this, right? On this topic?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah, get ready to tee that up. But one thing I heard, I think it was a Huberman podcast, he was talking about if you take all the science out of it and you take a step back and you say, look at what I'm eating. Like, what does it look like? Right? And you look at like the animal spectrum. Let's just use that as an example. And you say, like, do I want to consume meat from a cow or an elk? Like, an elk is the best athlete in the forest, right? It's bulging with muscle. It's lean. It looks like it's, all the food that's it's eating, right? It can't eat anything that is mass produced or fed to it by a farmer. That's important. I think it's an important part of the conversation to make sure that we understand we are what we eat and we are what we ate has already eaten. All right. Any thoughts on that, you guys? Do you want to watch the Andrew Huberman podcast to hear what he says on this? So, Chelsea, where'd this clip come from?
So this is a podcast that he did on diet and supplementation for muscle growth. He talks to Dr. Andy Galpin, and this is really just talking about when to intake protein and when it's important to make sure that you maximize that muscle growth and that rebuild.
All right, Huberman. We're gonna patch you in one day, buddy, right here on the Burn Boot Camp podcast, so you can talk to our people. I'm putting it out there in existence right now, but let's go ahead and roll his clip.
Work came out of Don Lehman's lab. It was actually Lane's mentor, as well as Stu Phillips at McMaster. So a ton of work there, and we can answer a number of things here. So Lane's numbers that he recommended, also known as about a gram of protein per pound of body weight. It's a great start. Now, once you slide below
that's per pound, right?
1 gram per pound.
Right, and earlier,
which is
just to make sure, because we're
2.2.
changing units here, it was 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, all the way up to, I think it was 2.4, but maybe as high as 2.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight.
So 2.2 in that unit would be the same thing. So 2.2 grams per kilogram is the same as 1 gram per pound.
Right.
So depending on where you're listening to this at, one of those may be easier than the other for you. If you start getting below that number, now you do start running into questions of protein quality, protein type, and protein timing. And this is one of the reasons why I actually fully agree with Lane, is just get that number higher than you think, and then all those other variables don't matter. If that number is low, then you need to start paying attention to a bunch of other stuff. You've added now complexity to your program, things you got to pay attention to. Just stay high and it doesn't matter. And so you can just leave a lot of those things off the table. That seems to be fairly clear in the work of some of those gentlemen I just mentioned, that as long as you get to that total number, the question about timing and types and quality, it seems to matter a lot less. In fact, Stu's.
Makes sense.
Okay, yeah, it definitely makes sense. One thing just to clarify there is, and I know Lane, they're talking about Lane Norton, who is also a PhD, carbon coaching, I believe is his Instagram or something like that. He's very, very, very smart. They have their whole camp of like nutrition people that are very, very smart, and we get a lot of our information, a lot of our philosophy kind of like stamped, or not in that way, but I look up to that group of nutrition PhDs to really inform like what direction we are taking. We've had this direction since 2012 before we kind of knew better. It was just like an intuitive way. Like it's probably wise to like not eat things that are processed and, focus on getting your protein in and all that. One thing just to clarify for you guys, and I'll go to you, Morgan, is 1 gram of protein per body pound works for, it's like a generic rule of thumb. You're obviously going to be cutting off outliers in that sense of anybody who is severely underweight or anybody who is severely overweight, somebody who has 50% body fat and, they should be maybe walking around at, 185 pounds or 180 pounds, but they're 350 pounds. They don't need 350 grams of protein, right? So that's just an outlier. And then it's also an outlier on the other side. If somebody weighs 87 pounds, they don't need 87 grams of protein. They're gonna need more to, So I just think that's important, right? And also just to say that it's a generic rule of thumb and it's a great starting foundation, like he said. And as we go forward, what we're going to want to do is increase that number. You can get up to Bodybuilders are up to 2 grams per body pound. We don't maybe need to go there, maybe 2.5 for some people, depending on their genetics. But me personally, I'm at 1.5 to 2.0. I always like ranges. I never like being rigid and right on something because it creates obsession and it creates bad habits for most people, in my opinion. So let's fall into a range, and that's mine, is 1.5 to 2.0 grams of protein, and then from all the various varied sources that we just talked about here, and that Chris Moore wrote an article on. So really good information here. Really like Huberman and Norton and all those gentlemen and ladies who we haven't mentioned who are part of that camp. Any thoughts, Trish, for you?
Yeah, well, I just think it's important, obviously, just to feel your body. But I will say, just from speaking of personal experience, I've been more intentional about my protein intake probably for like the past 2 years. Yeah, I've been focused on fitness for a lot longer than that. But it just didn't set in for me. Obviously I have those excuses of being a mom and being busy, but over the last 2 years, I would say I've been more intentional. And that's when I've also started to see more changes in my body. So you can go to the gym and you can do the things that we're doing in camp, but you also have to feel your body. That's such a big part of it. And so feeling your body the proper way with these proper proteins is going to give you those results that you're looking for. It's going to make you feel better, and you're going to feel stronger, and you're going to see those results faster. And then you're just going to set yourself up for success, because it's not this quick fix. It's you getting into this mindset of knowing what you need to feel your body. I actually was just listening to a podcast from Dr. Andy Galpin, and he was talking about how, kind of to your point, Devin, about being so precise on what you need to have in your body, because it does create some of those maybe obsessions. But to do that for 30 days is what he said. Just understand, being able to eyeball how much protein you need, what all of this looks like in your diet for you. And he calls it like this baker versus cook mentality, because baker, you have to be really precise. But like if you're cooking, you can kind of like throw in a dash of salt. And I really like that. It really stuck with me and resonated with me of like, yeah, be a baker for 30 days. If you're new to this, just really understand, know what you're putting in your body. And then after that, you can kind of let it go, and you can just kind of eyeball the things, what 125 grams of protein looks like for you in a day. So that's where I think it's so important. And it's something that, again, if you're going to devote your time, energy to your fitness and your health, this is something to not skimp out on.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think what I also loved about that video is kind of taking the complexity of the timing out of it. We get that question quite a bit here, even in our podcast. And just, I know that's the thing is, oh, what do I need to do? Like how, right after my workout, what's my window? And there's so many different opinions on that. But for me, it's like, if you can just get the amount in that you need, you don't have to worry about all that stuff, and go a little bit more than you think, because, those variables that kind of, from how it's absorbing and whatnot, go to 130 and maybe you'll land somewhere above 100. So I like the simplicity of that philosophy there. And I agree with everything you said, is we really underestimate probably how much we do eat until you track it. So 30 days is what I would always tell my members. 30 days, give me your tracking and your logs, and let's go through it. And most people were under eating from a calorie perspective, but also from a protein perspective. And then you start to build from there.
Yeah, I love, the last thing I'll say in this is I loved what they said about just the hierarchy of the protein focus. I thought that was really interesting. It's so clear, right? And this is, I'm glad we listened to this clip today. Quantity number one, he said, if you get the amount of protein that you need to get into your body, the next three things pretty much become irrelevant, which is quality, type, and timing. Mm-hmm. So quantity, quality, type, and timing, which, is a pretty self-explanatory. The difference between quality and type is the quality can be quality in each type. Types are like casein, concentrate, animal, plant, rice, right? And varying those types versus the quality of those types, how they're processed, how they're made, etc. I just really like that. And I hope everybody takes away the baker analogy plus quantity, quality, type, and timing. These are the things that really matter. And if you're just getting started with your protein journey, you want to get what we say. They say, you want to get 1 gram per body pound. That there's math to do there. Which is great, and I don't disagree with it. We start in a little bit more simple place of just start with 100 grams a day. Like no matter who you are, if the first thing you do is you start with 100 grams, then we'll start to dial in your body weight to to gram or body pounds to gram ratio as we move forward. But hey, if we don't have time for math, and if you're already confused about all the other 100 things that you have to worry about to be healthy, to be happy. Well, then let's just say 100 grams of protein, and let's figure out like practical ways to start counting that. So as you're going through your 30 days, that's an education period for you. I like to use my hand. And if you use your hand at about 6 inches over anything that you're eating, right? I know my hand, if it's 6 inches over a chicken breast, I know that's about 40 grams of protein. And if I know that I only have to get 100 to start, if I eat a handful of eggs, a handful of chicken breast, I'm almost at 100 right there. And then I do a protein shake, an afterburn protein shake, I'm definitely over 100. So, going back to my own personal list, muscle building, hypertrophy, which is the byproduct of kind of protein synthesis. The whole science behind building muscle starts and stops with a complete amino acid profile, leucine being the champion. And that's where Afterburn comes in, and our focus on burn nutrition. Not only Afterburn, but our protein bars, all of our meals are highest in protein. We are a protein-focused, fitness-specific nutrition organization. And we put all the things that you do need, a complete amino acid profile in our protein, and in nothing that you don't. And so we have 2,280 milligrams of leucine per 30 grams of protein in our Afterburn protein powder. Okay? So if you want to get you some of that, you stop in at any of our gyms. You can also get it online to help fuel all of your protein goals. And
Fuel your potential.
My favorite's chocolate whey. Tastes like, what did somebody say on the trainer forum?
Like Willy Wonka, like Matt's Willy Wonka or something. Chocolate Factory. It's good. It's reformulated. So if you have not tried it, or maybe you haven't used our protein in a while, I would encourage you to give it another try, because the new formulation is...
Trisha, do you remember what exactly somebody said? It was kind of like that, but it was a lot more color.
No, I don't remember. And you know who would know is
Matt.
Morris.
We'll have him on, and we'll ask him. We'll ask him, because I'm sure
it's. I won't try to.
I'm sure it's on
in
his journal.
I won't. Yeah.
Put it on a shirt.
He took a screenshot and put it on his vision board. It said something about like magical, like Matt's. Our protein tastes like Matt was working with magical elves in Santa's workshop or something like that. It's funny. Yeah. It's funny, but it tastes good. That's important too, that it tastes good. Right? Because if it doesn't taste good, are you really going to actually consume it? No, I look forward to it. I used unsweetened almond milk. I do 2 scoops. So that's in each one. There's 23 grams of protein. I do 46 grams. And then I also add creatine into it, because creatine is the most researched supplement and will really aid in your recovery and also cognitive clarity. And so a combination of those 2 things. And by the way, I'm not trying to promote this. Honestly, this is just what I do. I'm just promote what I do. And then I add collagen over the top. And the reason I'm going to bring collagen into this is because most people think collagen is a source of protein, which it is, but it's not a complete amino acid profile. And collagen is really derived from the connective tissue of the animal protein. And so, you're going to use that to supplement on top of a complete protein. Just don't mistake it. Don't mistake it. It's good for tissues, bodily tissues, nails, skin, hair, joints, ligaments. It's a different kind of protein. Not all protein is made equal. For example, cottage cheese is casein based. Casein is a great protein that has slow release properties, that when you eat it at night, you're going to slowly release that protein. Bodybuilders always drink casein protein right before they go to bed, because they want to maximize the protein absorption. So not all proteins created equal. We don't have all the time in the world to talk about everything protein today, but we are going to continue that conversation, and we appreciate this article by Mr. Chris Moore. Okay, we're going to move on. Kill these 6 habits to achieve your weight loss goal. Let's go ahead and dive into this CNET article here. This is Dr. Hashmi, who's going to discuss a video clip with us in a moment. Oh, she didn't actually write this article, but there's a video clip we're going to discuss. Dr. Hashmi. This one, 6 habits to kill your weight loss. I had an opportunity to dive deep into this and to really analyze it. I'm going to do that here in a moment, but I want to hear, Trisha, starting with you, we'll kick it to Morgan. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of this is, right now, we've talked a lot about on this podcast, just that quick fix mentality that doesn't set you up for success. So it's a lot of kind of these excuses that I feel like you put in your head, and like why you didn't maybe reach your goals. It's really uncovering them, in my opinion. I know personally some people, like when I was reading through the 6 that I know you're going to get into, Devin, like this is exactly what this person was thinking, and this is exactly why they were yo-yoing, because they would go all in on one of these things, and then it's not going to set you up for success. So really, then that's again why I appreciate, and I've been with Burn Bootcamp for so long, and why I'm in the seat that I'm in, because we talk about lifelong goals. It's not just a quick fix. We want you to feel better for the rest of your life, and we are here for you for the rest of your life. So I'm excited to hear your deep dive into this stuff, and I won't lie, it'll be a good combo.
Morgan, so why don't you do us a favor and just go through this? We'll pull the article back up. Tell us the six elements of this article and walk through those.
Yeah, number one, thinking in the short term. I think we've mentioned that a couple times already in this podcast. I know I did when I was talking about the challenge. So many people want those quick fixes. They want to see the results, and when they don't, they either give up or they try something different. So sticking with things longer term. Number two, they're either all in or all out mindset. So when you're all into something and, you completely eliminate all the fun things in life and, you're just so extreme that it gives you opportunity to fail quicker because there's not a balance. So that's number two. Number three, believing you can do it all on your own. Guys, you need a community. That's what makes Burn Bootcamp so great. But because when you have the mornings you wake up, you're demotivated, you need the people to help you kind of pull through and push through. Number four, exercise conquers all. Not true. Also, nutrition is a huge piece of it, which is why we spend so much time on this podcast educating you on nutrition and how that plays a significant role in your health, your longevity, and your weight loss goals. Number five, sleep, which I know we'll get into in the video a little bit deeper. Sleep and stress levels don't matter. This is a huge thing that I've been learning a lot more over the last several years. So I could talk about sleep and stress and how it does impact you. I could go very deep into that. And then number six, supplements will do all the heavy lifting. That's the mindset, but that is not the truth. And you've got to have, again, the balance between whole foods and sleep and good nutrition and good workout. You got to do it all. It can't just be pills and powders.
And we're going to let you dive into number five when we right after
okay,
this.
Let's hear what they have to say.
You said that you're going to go ham on that one.
Well, I've just been monitoring my sleep and I see the impact it has. So let's see what the video has to say about how sleep impacts weight loss.
Yeah. Before we roll clip, let me lay out my opinion, because I think I spent some time with this article, and then we'll roll clip, because I also want to react to this clip as well. It's an interesting clip. So the six mindsets for weight loss. First of all, everybody needs to know this. I said this for the first time maybe a couple months ago. Morgan's like, "What is that? What do you mean? What do you exactly mean by that?" I learned a new word, and I'm like, "Oh, that describes me." And the word's contrarian. That doesn't mean negative. It just means that I see something and I'm naturally wired to find the problem and the solution orientation to it, right? And so when I read this headline and it said weight loss in the headline, I need to ask you your opinion, because I could be way off base on this. Mm-hmm. Is there a contradiction between this headline and number one in itself, when it says, the focus for weight loss, and then it says thinking short term? Isn't weight loss inherently in its own embodiment a short-term goal? Because you can't lose weight forever.
Yeah. I think it's a good point. Probably need to really define short-term versus long-term, and how much weight you need to lose, right? Because to your point, if you just need to lose 5 pounds or want to lose 5 pounds, you can do that in the short term. It's just, but how are you going to sustain that, right?
Yeah. And I think it's also, with this new GLP-1s, and you take them for a certain amount of time. And I know people that have taken them, and then guess what happens when they stop taking them? They gain all of that weight right back. So I agree with you in that sense, but then it's really about, I guess, who you're speaking to.
Yeah. So it's just like, what's the goal? Because if we ask the right question, you'll get the right answer. So if you ask the question of, what habits do I need to form to help me lose weight? There's a much different answer to that than if you ask the question, what habits do I need to form to feel my best every day? Yeah. There's a fundamental difference. And so, thinking short term was inherent in the question, and I saw that contradiction, which maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but I think that's why you guys show up and listen to the podcast, is to hear our thoughts on things. And I really have less interest in reading this article as soon as I found that contradiction.
I do think, though, it does mention lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. So I don't know if they're associating, again, define short term.
Yeah.
If their short term in this article is 2 weeks, then that makes sense, right? But how realistic is that?
Yeah. Anyways, that was like the first thing that I thought. So let me like set that aside, and that's debatable, and go into, okay. So quickly we'll go, okay, thinking short term. So we have a problem with that, right? Because thinking also is the last thing we should do. We should follow our heart, in my opinion. Everything that I've achieved in my life has always been an intuition first and data informed second. And, you know, a lot of times when we think, we overanalyze, and I got to do all these things, and it's like, no, just go. Like, now I got to get new shoes and sign up for a gym membership. Then I got to get in a car, and then I got to turn the keys on. Then I got to look in the rearview mirror, and then I got to turn around. Then I got to back out. Do we do that anymore? Do we look in the rearview mirror? Or do we look in the video camera? Yeah. We look in the video camera. But you know what we do is we overcomplicate what it takes to actually start getting healthy in the first place by thinking in general. Just go. Just go do it. Just step in, be in, and allow yourself to be vulnerable, and go do it, and chunk down all these things that you need to do in order to be healthy into just move.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's just go walk. Like, I don't care if you go barefoot. You don't need new shoes. You don't need to get a new outfit. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need some pre-program that conditions you for a couple weeks. What we need to do is act. We need less thinking, more acting. Less thinking, more acting. And if our anchor is we move every day no matter what we think, we move every day no matter what we feel, like, now we're going to start creating discipline in our life, and we're going to start commanding our own life, because it doesn't matter what you think or what you feel, brain. When we do something, we go do it. And that's how we build resilience. And so, you know, it's like, if you want to move to action, thinking isn't the way to do it. Yeah. You move to action through energy. Energy is inherent in emotion, right? All energy is energy in motion. Emotion is energy in motion, right? There's a correlation to all information comes with energy. All emotion comes with information and energy. So my feeling of what I need to do for me to live the best life possible is that sense of like intuition of get up and move. Can't be overshadowed by I have to do all these things in order to do that. Number 2 is all or nothing. This probably is the most unsung hero of all healthy habits. All or nothing patterns is manifested by the language that you use. Your language, the way you communicate with yourself, the way you communicate with other people is so powerful. There's patterns that emerge that separate the world into people that achieve and people that do not. Words of winners and the language patterns of people that lose. I can't. I don't know. We wrote about this in Burn, in our latest book. Hit the USA Today list, baby. Let's go. Okay, we talk about the power of language. I can't versus I haven't yet. I can't eat healthy. I can't work out. I don't have the time. Just add the word yet. I don't have the time yet. Because now there's hope. There's a pre-assumption that in the future, even if I don't have the time now, and that's my personal truth, yet means I will make the time in the future. You are subconsciously always conditioning yourself with words. The words that you speak become the behaviors that you exude. The behaviors you exude become the personality that you have. Through all that, you experience life and its reaction to you, which shapes the personality and which shapes the thought patterns, which trickle back down into the thoughts that we have in our head. And so how are you speaking to yourself? However you speak in your head is how your life will manifest outwardly. And so if I'm all or nothing, it's never all or nothing. Like, this is something that's wrong with society in general. Everyone is so damn absolute about everything. You have to do it exactly this way or exactly that way. It's either this camp or that camp. It happens in politics, diets, fitness companies, banks. Everything is become absolutist, fundamentalist. It's like there is a little truth in almost everything. Mm-hmm. It's never going to be it's absolutely this way or it's absolutely that way. And so all or nothing mentalities create language patterns that force you to be rigid with yourself. When you're rigid, you have no flexibility. You're a complex, busy individual. So when you have no flexibility, Now you are forced inevitably to break promises to yourself. When you break promises to yourself, negative language and negative emotion will emerge from that, and you'll start going inward. So all or nothing is not just, it's not just a cute little title that this article has. It's a big piece of advice that I think you guys should take very, very seriously. I take it very seriously. And my language, you can ask more. If my kids say sure, if our kids say sure, they say it just like that. Sure. I'm like, that's indifferent to me, right?
Yeah.
It's indifferent. It's not decisive. Do you want the protein shake? Yes or no? Sure. I'm unsure. I don't have clarity in what you want. You want to have control over your life, have clarity over your life. You want to have clarity, have control of your words, and understand that even the subtle gray language, Morgan and I call it the language in the middle, right? Not the, oh, I'm so terrible at everything, or, oh, I'm so excellent at this. It's all the gray language in the middle that just, I don't know, maybe, I don't know about that today. I'm not feeling really that good. It's like, no, you get to control how you feel. The life is not done unto you. You are done unto life. So those were the two big things that I picked out about in this article. I could go on and read the rest of it and some thoughts on it, but I thought those first two were really big, and I appreciate this article for bringing them forward.
Can I just, so when I was reading number 2, because this is what struck me too, because my husband is an engineer, and we always talk about, like, he sees black and white, like, and I see like color. He's very much like data, or doesn't work. So when he approaches like his diet, for the longest time, he was all in or nothing. Like, he would like cut out candy, and like, he loves candy, and it didn't set him up for success. So finally, after me saying this is not gonna work for you, he like had to see like, he actually now is like, takes the holistic approach of like, I can have a little bit of candy. I'm not gonna cut it out completely. I'm saying all of this because I'm wondering if a little bit of it's like personality type.
Could be how you're wired.
You're wired, because like, I do see color, so this is easier for me to like get my arms wrapped around. But I think some people just aren't wired like him. He's just not wired to see this way. So I don't know. I just wanted to call that out as like an interesting, I don't know, aspect as well.
Yeah. And Morgan, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I do think certain people are wired in the all in or out not mindset, and it does take some failures to probably, but you also have to be self-accountable to be like, okay, how can I change, and how can I tweak it so I'm not completely on this side, and not completely on the other side? So.
Well, using your husband as an example, who we're good friends too, and we get to talk a lot. And when he talks to me, very obviously engineer, right? Like high Ivy League engineer, super smart, super analytical, very data driven. Yeah. But then he'll also tell me how he's taking anecdotal input from the driver. Like, he'll also say, after a race, we download them. He tells me and I translate that into data. And so, like, it's like back to the absolute thing, is like, we have a tendency to lean one way or the other, but no decisions are made just, solely like sound decisions. No sound decisions are made simply merely on the data without any anecdotal evidence. So it's never absolutely true one way or the other. And so really, probably the resistance there is like trying to be so rigid. Just have a little bit of that driver input, have a little bit of that anecdote of have a little candy. Yeah. Have a little bit. And that's intuitively feels good, right? Like, I know I can see the data and the calories, but it's 200 and it intuitively feels good. You're going to stick to it longer. Yeah. Yeah. We have a new location. It's exciting.
Are we skipping the video?
Are we skipping the video?
I was going to talk about sleep.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, no. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, I did just say 2 things and then not do them at all. So we're going to backtrack that. We're not going to go to a new location, but we do have 423 coming, people. So stay tuned for that. Let's roll a clip, and then we're going to let Morgan analyze the clip and talk about sleep.
So there's a really interesting study that was published in JAMA Internal Med in 2022 that looked at 80 overweight. Now, the definition of overweight is having a BMI between 25 and 29.9. So they looked at 80 overweight adults who were sleeping on average less than 6.5 hours per night. Now, the average age was close to 30. Half of them were men, and they were mostly Caucasians. So what they did in this study was they randomly assigned them to 2 arms. The first arm, they just continued their regular sleeping habits, which was sleeping less than 6.5 hours per night. But in the other arm, they asked them to sleep 2 or more hours each night going on. And Beyond this, they didn't say anything else. Didn't talk about food, didn't talk about exercise, didn't talk about anything, and definitely didn't talk about weight loss going on. So what they found was that after 2 weeks, the group that was asked to sleep 2 hours, they were actually sleeping about 1.2 hours extra each night. And interestingly, those that were sleeping that 1.2 hours extra, they were actually consuming on average 270 calories less each night. In fact, some of them were consuming as much as 500 calories less each night. And overall, what was interesting was that they actually lost, on average, about half a kilo in 2 weeks. That's without trying, without focusing on diet or exercise or any of that, simply by increasing their sleep. And they only got about an extra hour or so of sleep. So this was really interesting to see how those results were. Now, in the other group that weren't told to restrict their calories and they could continue to sleep less than 6.5 hours, in that 2-week period, they were consuming about 115 extra calories each day and actually gained about 0.4 kilos. So what's interesting here is that simply adding an extra hour to your sleep, meaning getting between 7 to 9 hours of sleep, actually led to eating less. So what's the mechanism behind that? Well, the mechanism really has to do with ghrelin. Remember, ghrelin is the hunger hormone, and as you sleep less, it actually increases. And in fact, other studies have shown that folks that are getting about 4 hours of sleep per night, they end up consuming on average about 300 extra calories each day. So if you're looking to lose weight, one of the simplest things you can do is making sure you focus on your sleep. Make sure you aim for that 7 to 9 hours each night. If you don't, that rise in ghrelin is going to make you crave the worst type of foods. That's salt, sugar, and fat.
Salt, sugar, flour. Depends on what type of fat. Anyways. So what I heard, Morgan, is that I need to go to bed earlier so that I stop eating excessive burn bars, pretty much. That's my takeaway.
I mean, that's why I wanted us to play the clip, just so you know. Devin is definitely a night owl. I am like, my kids go to bed and I'm like, all right, good night, everyone. I'm usually in bed by 9 o'clock. And it wasn't always like that, though. Granted, I have had 3 kids, and prior to that, I was a trainer, so I was waking up early. So I've been in the era of like getting interrupted sleep. I've been in the era of not getting a lot of hours of sleep, and then now my kids are sleeping through the night, and I've seen a difference when I do focus on getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I feel better. I stay sharper throughout the day, and I think it's interesting, the study, obviously, that they did, you consume less calories when you have that energy. So I just think that a lot of us go through life and we think that sleep is the last thing on the list. And I think when we can put it on the first of the list, you can really start to see the benefits, whether that's weight loss or just more energy or clearer skin, or your hormones are starting to be more balanced. It just has so much benefit when we give our body the rest that it needs. So that's really all I have to say. I just prioritize it. Like, give yourself a challenge to get in bed and really settle down and not be a night owl. And you'll find yourself even waking up earlier, which I think also has like really great benefits of your day when you can get your day started before your kids are up, and it just starts the day so much more smoother than kind of rushing in the morning. So that's my take on sleep.
I agree with all of that. A part of what Dr. Andy Galpin, that podcast I was listening to, he did hit on sleep and the importance of sleep and how people don't think that they need the sleep, but it's a time for your body to recover. So, as you're in the gym lifting, you need to prioritize that recovery time. So if you really want to hit those goals, I think there's a couple of things you just need to focus on. It's obviously your time in the gym, making sure you're consistent with your workouts, you're consistent with your food intake, you're consistent with your supplements, and you're consistent with your sleep. Is like, there's not that many things you need to do really that make it happen to reach your goals, but that is definitely one of them. And I agree with Morgan. I didn't prioritize sleep. I have 3 kids. I also went through the same kind of the interrupted sleep, not prioritizing sleep. I used to stay up and like work after my kids went to bed. Now I actually go to sleep when they go to sleep, and I'd rather wake up, get some work done in the early morning, and then I get my workout done in the morning. And then so my day just feels like I've set myself up for success. And then by the time 8:30 rolls around, I'm exhausted.
Mhm.
I listen to my body and I go to sleep. So I feel better also when I'm getting that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And that's it. Just
I
try
don't
it.
have brain power anymore past a certain time to do work. It just doesn't trigger for me. But early morning, I'm like, I'm fresh. And I'm like, all right, let's get it done. So yeah, I
Super
don't know.
motivated.
I don't know, Devin, how are we going to get you on the same rhythm as me and Trish over here?
Well,
9 o'clock bedtime.
I was doing some research the other night when I was up really late on why I stay up so late. Cause I just feel like it's not like I sleep in like super, I could get up around like 6:30 or 7, like you, right? But it's also, I can run. I just like you need more sleep than I do. And I think maybe that's just me convincing myself of that. And I'm actually chronically tired, but I just don't realize it. Cause that's my normal everyday state of energy. But I feel like I've got like an outlier's energy. Like I feel like I have energy. I don't feel tired. So the only thing I can think is maybe everybody requires a little bit different length every night. And so I can get 5, 6, or 7 and always feel the same. And if I get 9, I feel mentally bad, like mentally foggy.
Yeah. I will say I agree with the too much sleep situation.
Yeah.
But I definitely need more than 5 hours. I don't know how you do it.
Well, I don't do that consistently, right? And then I'll have periods where like a day, a week, or something where like Morgan just doesn't wake me up, and I don't wake up, and it's like 9:30, and like usually Sundays.
It's like
or
one
something.
day to catch up.
That's so nice of you.
Yeah, she does. She's amazing CEO, but also an even more amazing wife. Yeah. So I guess it's like kind of listening to your own body. There's part of that intuitive nature that comes along with it as well. What we're gonna do, guys, is we're gonna dive into these 2 last articles here, and then we're gonna get out of here. We really enjoyed this article, this neurologist article. An 83-year-old neurologist reveals 3 tricks he uses to keep his brain sharp. So if we want to pull up that article, this is a big focus on memory. Okay. And so I believe he writes a book. Can you guys find out what that book's called if you scroll through this a little bit? But I'm going to give here it is. A complete guide to memory, the science of strengthening your mind. We have Dr. Richard Restack here. Let's go ahead and roll clip actually, and then we'll dive into this article. We'll analyze it and get our reactions.
Strengthening your mind.
And I read an awful lot. I read about 2 or 3 books a week. So I'm constantly reading both fiction and nonfiction. And I've made some observations about the difference between fiction and nonfiction when it comes to memory. Namely, I think that fiction is a more challenging thing to do in terms of maintaining memory. You can take a nonfiction book, like my book, and you can open it up if you like. In fact, that's the way I wrote it, to any page that may be interesting to you. You might like one of the chapter titles. You can start reading it, and you'll do pretty well with it. But it's the rare novel that you could open up in the middle and start reading and not having read what came previously. So that the novel, you have to maintain characters, you've got to maintain your judgment and the author's judgment about the character, what they've done, how they fit into the particular plot. And that's difficult. That's a very demanding thing. So I always noticed that the 2 things that often turn up when people are starting to have dementia or mild cognitive impairment is that they switch their reading to almost all nonfiction.
Yeah, and this guy clearly is very sharp at 83 years old, and so we're gonna dive into the article that he wrote. I will go ahead and do my deep dive quickly because I also want to hear your reaction to what I say. This is so part of this, back to this contrarian mindset that I have, is part of this is looking at the source, right? He's an amazing, elderly gentleman. I could learn so much from this human being. I'd love to sit down with him for 5 hours and pick his brain. But he's also a neurologist, and neurologists also are part of the medical industry, and the medical industry is also reactive, not proactive. And so his advice is on memory. And you mentioned it when he said when older adults start dementia, right? They start having symptoms. It's like, oh, now we got to start reading, and here's what we got to do, and here's these 3 tips. I just think and I know, and I don't think, this is not my opinion. It's facts at this point, is that our hippocampus is responsible for the degeneration of the hippocampus is responsible for a lot of these memory associated, how would you say? What's an umbrella term, like dementia, Alzheimer's, memory loss diseases. Okay, so you can actually stave that off way earlier than when you start to get signs of it by actually exercising. And so, there's 3 tips in his article, and they are, if we want to pull that article back up so the viewers can see at home, working out your memory is number 1. Like he said, the most important part of memory is what we call the working memory. So he said the best thing you can do for your mental sharpness is to enhance your working memory. So how do you do that? Brain training games, okay? You can get better at these games. It keeps you sharper for longer. Number 2 was read your way to a sharper brain, which is what he talked about. Fiction and nonfiction. You got to understand the plot, all that stuff, right? And then number 3 is build memory palaces, where you can read about it in detail in the article. I won't go into it. But so that's like the reactive approach. Once you maybe start getting into a place where you feel your memory going, you might want to incorporate those. That would be my 4th. That would be my 4th. All of those would be encompassed as bullet points into my 4th recommendation. My list would work this way. Number 1, physical exercise. It is now scientific evidence that BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, actually creates plasticity in the brain, reduces neurodegeneration, which happens when the hippocampus starts to deteriorate. You lose memory. That's where all these diseases are then manifest, or at least large in part. Number 2 is nutrition, because it's the number 1 form of energy in your body. It carries all emotion. And emotion is, in my mind, is synonymous with life. So emotion is life. Like, if you have high emotion and you're feeling things, then you're alive. If you have dead emotion and you don't feel anything, you're just a life form. You're not really living life. And this energy that you get from food is the motion. It is the energy that you feel. And so if we're going to talk about longevity and memory, and you go back to, how we're going to keep our brain sharp, well, physical exercise inputs into your body, both from a food perspective, but also all other inputs into your body, right? With all of the senses. That would be my 2nd category. Number 3 would be the social engagement, the meaningful connections. First to yourself. So there's the inherent part of this, that in order to engage with other people, you need to first then engage with yourself, and find yourself worthy of being a part of a community and contributing to that community. And then you can worry about mental engagement, staying sharp, brain games, like the more memory focused. How do I increase my memory? How do I get a better memory hacks, if you will. So that's my list. Physical exercise, nutrition as the number 1 form of energy, social engagement with yourself and others, and then mental engagement. And so in this way, with this list, if you believe in what I'm saying, then what you start to do is you never get to the point, or you reduce your chances of getting to the point in which you have memory loss in the first place, in which you then need to incorporate these different tactics. And nothing's bulletproof. There's people that do all this stuff their entire life and they still end up getting dementia, Alzheimer's. All we're talking about is, what can you do that's in your control in order to be as healthy as you possibly can, control your attitude, your efforts, your belief systems mostly, and then the world is going to do unto you. The universe will continue moving forward, and God has a plan for all of us. And sometimes it doesn't always align with the blueprint you have for yourself. And that's unfortunate, but it's just a part of this reality. So what we're talking about is the things you can control. Definitely physical exercise is the number 1 thing for us. Surprise, surprise. Morgan. Trisha.
I was going to say, I like your list. I for whatever reason, when I read this list initially, it kind of stressed me out. Whenever I think we talk about this a lot, being a working mom, like I have not a lot of time in my day, and I like have to structure. My day starts like 4 a.m. and literally at every hour, every minute, like every second is booked until I go to bed. And so whenever I'm like told I need to like read a book, I'm like, I don't know when I have time. Like I have to listen to podcasts because it's a multitasking thing, like when I'm getting ready. So for whatever reason, I don't know if anyone else. So that's why, Devin, like when you said it the way you did, it calmed me. But then what I liked about this list was after I got rid of, it's okay, I can't do all the things, I can only do what I can do. I also need to be intentional about what I'm doing. So, the working out your memory, for me, it's so funny. I don't know if anyone else is like this, but I can remember like the words to like every song from like the early 2000s. And so I don't know if this applies, but now
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
okay, that's me working out my memory, singing a rap song word for word. Couldn't name all the presidents like he does, but I'll sing a rap song to help my memory.
Yeah.
And then the last one was a good tip about building memory places. Again, busy moms, busy lives, whoever you are, we're busy. And so I forget a lot and it drives people around me nuts. So I'm definitely going to take this of like putting picturing something to help me remember what I need to do. I think that's a really cool trick that I learned. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with this in my family. I've dealt with dementia with my grandfather and then my grandmother as well towards the end of her life. And I actually found the clip that we watched very truthful because my grandma was an avid reader. She would read 1 to 2 books every week, and like I can remember, and this wasn't just when she got older, like this was my memory of her. She was always a reader. And my grandpa probably only read the newspaper and then he was a TV watcher. So if I looked at like some of the habits that I remember about them, I think I saw a clear sign of keeping your brain sharp. And then obviously, dementia, Alzheimer's, some of that is genetic. So you can't always control how it's going to show up for you, but you can do some things in the interim to either delay it or to make sure it's at a minimum. But when I was listening, I was like, God, that's describing like my grandma right there. And she stayed very sharp until the end of life. But yeah, I agree, Trish. It stresses you out. I'm like, does Block Blast count as a game? Because I love some Block Blast on my phone. But we have gotten to be more of a digital world, and so you're not even reading, as much as you used to because there's so much audio. Yeah. There's so much podcasting now, audiobooks. There's we're consuming content in such a different way than we used to. And think about our generation or our kids, right? Yeah. That generation is going to be even different than us. And so having books and having newspapers and, it is a little bit concerning to know that we've got to be more intentional about some of these things. But Devin, I agree. I love your list. I agree with it. And I know there's a lot of research to back that as well.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So last article for the day, everybody, and we're going to get you guys out of here. And make sure that if you want to submit your story, I know you saw Jillian's story at the top of the hour here. If you want to submit your story, podcast@burnbootcamp.com. If you want to submit any questions, podcast@burnbootcamp.com. If there's any really interesting takes, or we're even going to start patching people in, experts from all over the world, patching in to give their expert opinion. And if you know anybody or you're an expert yourself and you want to be a part of our production here, podcast@burnbootcamp.com. We're aiming to bring you health, wellness, happiness, personal development from all angles in order for you to maximize your quality of life and live a wonderful existence. All right, everybody, we have a brand new location. Can you guys believe this? It is location number 423, Albertville, Minnesota. Becky and Jacob Bjorklund, Christy and Anthony Arndt. Congratulations to you guys, beautiful couples. It's a partnership. It's husband-wife partnership. It's an amazing thing here at Burn Boot Camp to have a company for families, owned by families. And if you want to become a part of our family, we have thousands more opportunities to open a Burn Boot Camp in our amazing country, the US of A. And if you'd like to partner with myself, Morgan, Burn Nation, and invest into yourself to impact a community, then you got to use this QR code to start your journey. You're going to land on the franchise development page. You're going to fill that information out, and then you're going to be talking with my team on the other side. We can talk to you about numbers. We can talk to you about statistics. We can talk to you about all the things, but most importantly, it's about the impact that we're creating in our communities. And Becky, Jacob, Christy, and Anthony, congratulations to you. We appreciate your partnership and look forward to many great things to come. So we're going to talk about the dietitian named Hannah Holscher, Associate Professor of Nutrition at the University of Illinois in Champaign. She works at the College of Agricultural, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences, and she was interviewed by Renee Onque from CNBC. That's a cool name. Renee Onque. I always go to actually, and this could be controversial. I'm not trying to be controversial. I just want to be transparent. When I hear anybody talking about food, health, wellness, being healthy, I always go look at them. I always go see their picture, and I go to their IG or their corporate profile and look, do you actually live the healthy life that you're portraying? Do you know, because if you've seen some of like our political figures, regulators in our health, in our governmental bodies, they're not the model image of health. And so it's very important that we take advice from those who actually have done the advice, who have incorporated the advice, practice what they preach. I always say you can't transfer the enthusiasm that you haven't possessed yourself. And so everything checks out here. I was interested in Hannah, Renee Onke look like very healthy people. I checked out a lot of their work, and this was an interesting article because it talks about the microbiome. I know that gut health has been a big topic. Morgan, you've taught me a lot about this. You guys don't know this about Morgan. You can catch Morgan Klein at our home just biohacking something in a week. She had a red face mask on last week, which was pretty dope. You scare the new puppy though, and you scare our dogs. They won't go around you. What's that thing called? Can you look up the red light face mask? I want to show everybody what this looks like, Chelsea. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I got you. Hold on.
Okay. All right. We're going to show
Listen, red light therapy is great. And
talk about some other things you've done more, because you got a whole gamut in the last year. I've seen you do
well, what
all
he's
types of
talking
stuff.
about is he saw me. I also like castor oil packs on my liver and my stomach, and we have a sauna at home, so I always wear one of those when I'm in the sauna. And so I think what had happened is I got out of the sauna and I maybe put the red light. If I have
right
30
there.
minutes,
there it is, right there.
Yeah, I wear that every night.
That one. You look like a modern day
20 minutes
Spartan warrior woman.
20 minutes, that's all you need. So what can you do while you've got that on? But yes, you happened to catch me when I also had castor oil.
What are those? What's the dance crew? They with the white masks on, and they do sick dances. The Jabberwockies. Pull up a picture of the Jabberwockies. I want to see.
I don't think I know who them.
Yes, dude, you look like a mix between a modern day Spartan and a Jabberwocky. You know, you're gonna know these people. They're super cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, they have the white mask on. But you've done a bunch of other stuff too. What's the other? There they are.
Oh, okay. Wow. I don't know. What else have I done, Devin?
I mean, I don't want to go past the line of privacy because you've done some pretty gnarly stuff.
Okay, you're talking about coffee enemas. Yeah, I have. I've tried it all.
I just know that
I want to just be as healthy as I possibly can.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing with you. It's amusing to me.
Listen, coffee enemas are great. I'm not gonna lie. But we won't go into detail there. And don't do it at home. Do your research. I'm not telling you to go do any of this stuff. It's just
you're experimenting. And
I experiment a lot within reason. I don't want to sound weird.
You're not. Yeah, you're not like You're not. You're not going. You're just like trying the latest and greatest stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Science meets health. But my big deal is like that stuff isn't gonna, like the fads, the diets, the pills, the potions, right? That's not gonna be a replacement for the fundamental human needs that are met when you eat, train, recover, and repeat, and you do that together with a group of people. There's nothing that's the formula. It's not all these other things. Those are sprinkles on top. Sometimes it's not going to work. Sometimes it's going to work. Definitely not foundational. Okay.
Are you talking about my red light therapy mask?
Your
not
red light
foundational?
it is not foundational.
Okay.
What's foundational is that you put clean nutrition in your body, that you naturally stir up your chemical cocktail every day with the thousands of chemicals that you have by igniting your physiology through working out, by
some of this stuff might just be a placebo effect. And if it is, then it just still makes me feel
does it work?
Like my skin is great and I look young and I'm doing all the things.
And it might not be either. It might not be either. I think the red light therapy has a lot of substantiation behind it. And so we'll continue. Morgan, we need to have a new segment. Have you ever seen Sunday Conversations with Caleb Presley, by the way? Anybody?
No.
Oh my gosh. If you want to laugh, if you need like a 3-minute laugh, Sunday Conversations with Caleb Presley on Barstool Sports is hilarious.
Okay.
And he always does a segment sponsored by like whatever, like here's our new segment. You mind if we do a new segment sponsored by Mamitas? And then he comes up with like a random segment. So we just need to do like a random segment sponsored by, Byrne called like Morgan's
Hacks.
Morgan's Hacks or something like that.
Okay. All right. I'll start making a list.
Okay, so let's round this out because I know we want to get everybody out of here. Let's see. Thoughts, reactions from this article from Hannah Holster, a registered dietitian, microbiome researcher, on her habits. Do you guys have any thoughts? Trisha?
Yeah, sorry. Go
Well,
ahead, Trisha.
I mean, I think if this is all she's eating in a day, I worry about her protein intake. I like the tips on, making sure that we're getting our fiber. And I think that that's really important. And that's something that, I think we need to be more intentional about, just like getting our protein in. But I did worry reading this without the, obviously I'm always thinking about protein, and I didn't see like a drop of protein on here, especially like her lunch is so light. So I think it's a good overview if you're just looking at tips for getting your fiber up, but definitely like you need more food than this in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't eat lunch, like it said. She opts for these snacks. So yeah, I think no hate on her. I just think any article like this can be this dangerous and misleading for people that are looking for a pathway forward, because it's like, okay, let me just eat exactly this then. Yeah. And that may not be for you. What she eats in a day is not a one size fits all. So yes, while it gives good ideas and inspiration, and I agree with the fiber, I would say otherwise I did not care for this article.
Yeah, I didn't care for it much at all either. And I'm glad that you guys had the take on that, because it doesn't do much for me in terms of informing me. It doesn't do much for me. Like, what do you mean keep my gut healthy without being too strict about my diet? Like, to me, it's a contradiction in itself. It's an oxymoron that you have, like, gut health is this important thing, but then like there is levels of, I guess, too strict. You have to define that. Like I said, I'm not excited about this. I'm not hating on it either. It doesn't have the quantities or the macros or the calories that she's consuming on a daily basis, but it also doesn't say her goals and things like that. But I just going back to general rule of thumb, if you're going to live a long and healthy life into your 70s, into your 80s, into your 90s, and you think that you can do so without proper strength training, you're sadly mistaken. You're going to break down exponentially over time. And the one discipline that every human being needs to start as soon as they hit puberty, and you start the hormonal influx, you're going to start strength training, starting with body weight conditioning and body weight reps, and obviously working your way into external load. But hypertrophy is where we ultimately want to go. What is hypertrophy? Well, that's strength training within about 8 to 15 reps to failure, or to form failure, where you physically can't do the rep anymore. And we need to do that 3 to 6 times every week if we want to have a high quality of life into our 70s, 80s, and 90s. You're going to see, guys, a whole generation. We're just now living through maybe people that are in their 50s going into like their, maybe even that's a little old, mid 40s, who have heard this narrative now since they were born. Everybody that's older than that kind of arbitrary line in the sand that I'm drawing has exercise has never been a priority for that generation. Mm-hmm. There's never been the amount of information that's so available at our fingertips to understand that what I'm saying is actually authenticated and so true, to the point in which if you don't do it, negative things will happen to you. But your body will break down. If you don't break your body down on a daily basis by strength training as hard as you can to hypertrophy, if you're not, pushing the limits of your heart, if you're not pushing the limits of cognitive clarity through strong conditioning programs to supplement that strength, well, then what's going to happen is you're going to go through life, and it's going to be somewhere down the line, and you're going to say, I don't feel good. You're going to get an amount of pain because you don't feel good that is far more pain than you ever desired, and you're going to have a regret, and you're going to say, man, I wish I would have started this sooner. Start now. Just start now. Stop thinking. Start doing. Get strength training in your diet, and when you do, you can't just eat high fiber cereal and bananas for lunch and chickpeas for dinner and things like that. So, gotta eat protein. Mm-hmm. All right, you guys. My rant's over on this one. CNBC. We appreciate you guys being here today. Leave us a review. Let us know what you like, what you didn't like. Let us know how you thought this went. On Apple is the place where we'd like to see reviews. Please do that. If you're a fan of the podcast, you love Morgan, you love Trish, you love myself, or Burn Boot Camp in general, please leave us some feedback. It is our oxygen. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, as always, we appreciate you being here. Know you could be anywhere else in the world. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.
Thanks, guys.